Quite often I really don't worry about creases on a black background because it's not like you're going to see them, they tend to just disappear into the shadows. But today, a little bit different. Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey and you're watching Adorama TV, brought to you by Adorama, the camera store that's got everything for us photographers. And in this video, I'm going to show you 3 different low-key portrait ideas, perfect if you're just starting off with low-key photos. Now, to make this work, I've got pretty basic kit. I've got 1 light, maybe 2 at the most, and a simple fabric background. Whilst I'm setting this up, you should be clicking on the subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss a video right here on Adorama TV. Right, let's get a light set. Actually, no, that is it. That's the light set. Let's get a model in. Let's get shooting. To help me out today, I've got the amazing Sophie. Sophie is going to be the model for this shoot, but before we get going, let's just quickly talk about the styling and the background. So for a low-key setup, the easiest way to go is with a dark background already, and Sophie is styled in dark clothing, which is all going to make life a little bit easier. Then there's the camera settings. So I'm going to work in manual mode for this. So I'm going to dial in some settings. I'm going to go with f8 as my aperture, 200 ISO, which is a native ISO for my Olympus camera, and 250th of a second as my shutter speed, which is my flash sync speed. And the first picture I'm going to take is perhaps the most important. It's a picture without any flash at those settings. Okay, Sophie, quick test shot. And no flash gives me no picture. This is actually the blackest black I'm going to get in my low-key shot. I'm trying to set my flash so it reads exactly the same settings as my camera, which is f8. Now I'm using a flash meter, but you could do this by trial and error if you prefer. What that means is I now have the correct exposure on Sophie. My flash for this is a Flashpoint XPLOR300, and I'm using this particular light because it has one little bonus that's just going to make my life a wee bit easier. It has a built-in modeling lamp. Again, not essential, but really helpful. Okay, let's take a shot like this and see how it looks at these settings. Okay, Sophie, here we go. And what I get is a very dramatic shot, but it's not really a low-key shot because there's quite a bit of highlights and quite a few midtones in this picture. To really make this look and feel more low-key, I'm going to try 2 different things. I'm going to try adding in Sophie's hat. Well, actually, Sophie, you're going to add in your hat, so there we go. And also my little grid here, but this we'll get to in a minute. Let's pop the hat on and let's just see if this makes it more low-key. And the way it's going to be more low-key is by increasing the shadows in this shot. And the hat with a wide brim is definitely going to cast some shadows. Okay, Sophie, let's just take a little test shot, see where we go. So now we're getting a little bit more mood in this picture. We definitely have more shadows in the shot than we had before, and we can make it even more dramatic. Sophie, can you tilt it the other way for me? Perfect. That's great. Okay. By tilting the hat in the other direction, now we're getting something very moody. You don't always have to see your model's eyes for it to be an interesting portrait. However, I need to guide Sophie because she can't see where this light's going to go, so I can give her a little bit of direction. So Sophie, just tilt the hat a bit more. That's pretty good. And yeah, that's great. Just slightly chin up a wee bit. Great stuff. So there's still a little bit of grey on Sophie's top. I can deal with that by adding in the grid. So this is a grid that allows me to push the light in one direction. If you want to find out more about grids, we've got a lot of videos right here on Adorama TV. Normally I lose about a stop of light. Let's just see. Sophie, I'm going to pop this near your chin. Now this is really important. There is a hat that's casting a shadow. I've got to make sure I don't put my flash meter in that shadow. So I'm going to bring it a little bit further out than I would normally. Perfect, there we go. So that's great. Here we go again. So that is a lot more dramatic and a lot more low-key. And this is going to be my first low-key setup. So Sophie, are you ready? Okay, let's take some shots like this. Here we go. I could have added the vignette inside of Photoshop, but doing it in camera is far more satisfying, and if I've got a lot of photographs to work through, it's much quicker too. My second way of getting low-key shots is perhaps the simplest way. It's getting the light, and rather than lighting Sophie from the front like this, I'm actually going to put the light right around the back of Sophie like that. So it's going to come in from the side. I've already taken a meter reading for this, so I know the exposure is correct. Let's just take a test shot and see what we get. Here we go, Sophie. And what we get is, well, quite a dramatic portrait in as much as Sophie is half lit, and it is, I guess, low key, but it's not quite what I'm after. So what I need Sophie to do is just change one thing, and that is the direction that she's looking in. So rather than looking at me, she needs to look towards the light. But top tip, don't ask your model to look straight at the light. A bare flash can be quite an uncomfortable experience to look at. Okay, Sophie, here we go. The exposure, of course, is exactly the same. And now we have something that has a little bit more interest, and that works quite well, except of course the right-hand side where Sophie is just drifting into the shadows. My solution for this is going to be this silver reflector, and I'm using silver because I want to push as much light back onto Sophie as I can, bearing in mind there's only a small area of light from the grid that's going to hit this reflector, and then Sophie's blocking some of that as well. So the silver reflector is the way to go for this setup. Okay, Sophie, here we go, quick test shot. And you can see that that bounces a tiny bit of light onto the back of Sophie and just helps to separate that area out from the dark background. Okay, so that's my second low-key setup ready to go. Sophie, are you ready? Okay, let's take some shots. Here we go. What I can do is take this basic idea and make it a little bit more exciting by adding a small prop and a bit of help from Sam. For my third and final low-key lighting setup, I've gone all arts and crafts, and I've made this little kind of letterbox slot in a piece of foam core. Yep, no expense spared for this shoot. What that's going to do is put a little slot of light across Sophie, and to achieve it, I've switched to a different grid. So if you get a set of grids, and you'll find links in the video description for what I'm using, you'll get a really tight grid like this 10-degree grid. However, I'm not sure how much light to put onto Sophie through that slot and through the grid. I could try the flash meter, but it's a very small area to get right, so I'm going to do trial and error instead. I'm at 1/32 power. Let's take a test shot, see what we get. And I get a slot of light, but not really bright enough. I reckon 2 stops more light is required, so I'm going to go to 1/32, 1/16. That's one more stop of light. 1/16 to 1/8 power. That's 2 stops of light. Here we go. And that looks very dramatic, but maybe there's just a bit too much shadow in this picture. What I'm going to do is add this, which is a second light. It's a Flashpoint XPLOR300, and its job is just to put a little bit of light into the shadows. I've got it on a pretty low power, 1/128th power. Let's just turn off the main light and show you what this light is doing. Okay, Sophie, here we go. So it is adding just a little bit of fill light into the shadow side of this shot. It's not a lot, but it's enough just to elevate this picture and be able to see a bit more of Sophie so she's not completely blending in with the shadows. One thing I don't need is the silver reflector, because that little slot of light is so small it's not really going to reflect off of that, so that's gone. But one thing I definitely do need is to turn the modeling lamp on, because that will guide me. It'll show me exactly where that slot of light is going to be on Sophie's face. Okay, everything is set up. Sophie, are you ready? Okay, let's take some shots like this. Here we go. The way it works with the cookie is this. The closer you get it to your subject, the sharper the effect will be, but the greater the risk of you accidentally capturing it in your shots. Now you might have noticed the one thing I've not done in this video is define what a low-key image actually is. And that's because, well, there's no real rules in photography. If you think it's low-key, it probably is. For me, a low-key image is one where the vast majority of the image is in the shadow side, but there's still some highlights. If you look at the histogram from one of my images, you can see it looks really weird. Large spike on the left-hand side, but the line does extend all the way to the right-hand side, meaning there is a true highlight in this image somewhere. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or you've got any questions, leave me a comment down below. Click on the bell icon and you'll never miss a video right here on Adorama TV. And of course, remember to click on that subscribe button. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.